This conference is the biggest meeting of African scholars, African practitioners, African development thinkers on economic development on this continent. As an Economic Commission for Africa, it's extremely important for us to be part of this. This is the biggest intellectual platform on economic thinking on the African continent. And naturally, as an Economic Commission, we're a major stakeholder in this, and that's why it's very important for us to be part of it. We've been part of it for almost about a decade. We are part of those who thought through this idea of holding an African Economic Conference. And I think it's been extremely rewarding. What this conference has done is to promote intergenerational conversation on issues that are being discussed, or in this case, we're talking about job creation for young people on the African continent. But what we've basically promoted over the years is intergenerational discourse, young scholars meeting up with older scholars, practitioners meeting up with development thinkers, and policymakers, and political leaders and civil society organizations all coming together to reflect on Africa's economic challenges and how we will overcome them.
I think it's extremely interesting because it talks about one of the critical development factors in Africa, namely jobs for youth. I think the research papers have been of very good level. If I had to point out something for maybe lessons learned, is to give more voice to young people rather than policymakers, and maybe redistribute the arrangement of the conference to 2 days of research and 1 day for policymakers.
This conference has been fantastic in that of the 250 participants that were registered, about a third of them are youth, and of the 48 papers that have been presented at this conference, 24 of these, about a half of them, have been presented by youth. This gives me hope that as we look at the issue of youth employment and economic development of Africa, the youth at the forefront, and they have taken on the job, the responsibility of being at the cutting edge of research to produce results and recommendations that will help African countries develop in a sustainable manner with their participation.
The ECA, this is a really important partnership. We get to be part of the conversation that shapes economic policy across the region. We also get to work quite closely with other institutions that are working on a number of areas and which complement our role as a think tank, as a purveyor of ideas. And the conference went very, very well, and there was a lot of rich and lively discussions regarding entrepreneurship, capacity development and jobs for youth. And I think that there'll be a lot of important takeaways from the conference to inform policy going forward, initiatives and even government interventions at the national level. So there was a very large representation of youth, and many youth from the private sector and also from civil society organizations. And so they really contributed a lot to the discussion going forward.
Issues related to the youth and how to create 100 million jobs per year through capacity building, entrepreneurship and employment. We're discussing plenaries and breakout sessions. It was a great opportunity to bring policymakers, academics, private sector and civil society and youth organizations. It was an opportunity for the ECA to launch the economic report on Africa, and also ECA, AUC, UNDP, AFDB and the APRM launched the 2019 Sustainable Development Report.